This is the plaintiff, Jaime Segala. He says he and the defendant were friends for 30 years, and he purchased a purebred puppy from him and named her Zoey. Unfortunately, the defendant sold him a sickly dog who had seizures, and she ended up dying on his kitchen floor right in front of him. His former friend refuses to reimburse him for all he's been through, and he's suing him for the $10,000 he feels he's owed. This is the defendant, Francisco Rojas. He says the plaintiff called him very upset one night a year after he had the puppy to tell him it had died. When he asked the plaintiff if he brought the dog to the vet, the guy told him no, and he feels it's his fault Zoey died. Please, this guy looks at him like a dollar sign and nothing more, and he owes zero. He's accused of selling a sickly dog.
All parties, please get your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says that he bought a puppy from the defendant, somebody he's known for 30 years, and sadly the dog died. But the defendant says the dog was a year old when he unfortunately passed, and he doesn't think he's responsible. It's the case of Tale of the Pup.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Mr. Segala, what happened?
So long story short, I've known this guy for about 30 years. And he told me, hey, get one. He's been breeding for several years. I remember when he started, and he was telling me, get a dog. And I told him, hey, I'm not ready for one, but when I'm ready, I'll let you know. And he'll tell me when he has litters, and he has more litters, and I get it.
Were you two friends or co-workers? How did you know each other all these years?
Yeah, we were actually pretty good friends. Like I said, I know this guy for 30 years. We used to play Texas home to games practically every weekend.
So he breeds puppies, and he tells you should have a dog, and then what happens? One fine day, you do buy a dog from him.
Yes, I did.
All right, so you bought what kind of a dog from him?
It was a French bulldog.
Oh.
So basically, during the pandemic, that was the perfect timing to get a dog.
Right, and how much did you pay him for the French bulldog?
So I paid him $2,500. We had a written contract, $2,500.
Okay, and did you pay the full $2,500?
I paid the full $2,500 in cash at his home.
Okay.
At in front of his house.
And then what happens?
Well, prior to me purchasing the dog, I even told him, he explained to me, it's my litter. I have some puppies. Which puppy do you want? He told me this ahead of time. I told him, no, it's a perfect timing. It's a pandemic. I have the opportunity to train her properly. I never had a dog before. Other than that, it was a perfect time to purchase that puppy.
Okay, but you're not answering my question. My question.
What's the question again?
Okay, I forgot because me pica aquí, me rascas aquí. It itches me here, and you're scratching me here. Please listen.
Perdón.
Okay, try to listen to what my question is. I want to understand. You bought a puppy from him. Correct? And when did you buy a puppy from him?
Okay, so I bought it off of Francisco. If I recall, it was
you have a written contract, you said, right?
Yes. Let me get that for you.
I got it.
He said
sold
yes,
for $2,500. Francisco Rosas sold on December 18, 2020. And what happens with the puppy?
So once everything's said and done, I pay the money. He tells me she's 100% healthy, no problems. I take her home. I was prepared for this dog. I had made purchases. I got her home. I received everything, even a book in regarding Frenchies.
You received a lot more. You really went all out. You bought a dog seat, toothpaste. I wonder if I'm making myself look bad that I don't brush my dog's teeth because she's a dog, but toothpaste, chew toys, and you're suing for all that. You want all that paid back to you because what happens?
Well, what happened? My dog died.
When did your dog die?
January 21st of 2022.
Over a year later.
A little over a year later. And
how did it happen? What was it you noticed? What was the first thing you noticed, and what happened?
Okay, put it this way. When I had my dog, I say within 6-7 months, more or less, I believe she had a little seizure. First time I ever experienced something like this. Right after that, I called Francisco and I told him, hey, my dog had a little seizure. Is this common? are your pups from that litter having the same situation? He goes, no, none of my pups are having any seizures. So long story short, I did my investigation. I paid additional funds for the AKC to receive more information, and it stated that Francisco was not the breeder of that puppy. It was a different breeder. That's a breach of contract right there.
Well, I'm sorry. You say you thought he was the breeder, and according to you, Mr. Rosas, you told him that you were receiving that puppy from another breeder, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what was the deal that you struck with him, and what did the contract say about whether or not it was your litter or wasn't your litter? Did the contract say anything about that or no?
The puppy, he knew that I was going to receive it because I did a breeding with another person, and our agreement was that I could pick a puppy out of that litter. And I told Jaime Sigala if he was interested in it, that he could pick up the puppy, since that I would give him a really good price for the puppy.
So you were selling it to him for $2,500. What do they normally go for?
Depending on how exotic they are, but they start off at 3,000 and could go up very high, up to 20,000.
Okay, and so you sold it to him for $2,500, and further that you would get a first pick of the litter if he ever bred the dog, correct?
Correct. And he picked up the puppy from the actual breeder, so he was well aware of what was going on. That I told him that I was gonna pick up the puppy, but he said that he'll do it. And when at the time of payday, he gave me a bunch of money, like just stacked up together, bunched up together. And when I counted it, it was I believe $2,000. So he was at the 2,500.
Oh my God!
This guy's a scam artist. If you look at him,
why'd you give him a receipt for $2,500 if he was $500 short?
Yeah, because I trusted him because I thought he was my friend and I thought it was gonna be all there.
I'm sorry.
And when I called
when
him,
did you realize that he was $500 short? After he left? So you
right away I called him.
I'm sorry. Right away you shouldn't have to call him. Right away is when you're counting it in front of his face and you say, "Hey, there's 2,000." That's right away. So
I looked
you
at
never
it like a loss.
My point is, you never counted when he handed you the money?
You're right. So I looked at it like a loss, and I never bothered him for it.
Wow.
You're not even counterclaiming for the 500, so I don't really need to address that. I do want to address at the 6-month mark, you call him because your dog has a seizure, and he says no other dogs in that litter had a seizure. And then what happens, Mr. Sigala?
She had a little seizure. I called him.
We're past that. After he tells you no, what's your next step?
My next step was I had insurance for a month. I called my 24/7 service for the KKC. I explained to them. They said, "Don't worry about it. The only thing you can do is just she had a little seizure.
I'm sorry,
make sure you're there,
you
take
had
care of her."
insurance for a month. What does that mean?
Yes.
You had insurance for a month.
I only had insurance for a month when I registered at the AKC.
Insurance for what?
It's just that's just the way.
I'm sorry. What are you saying? Pet insurance?
Pet insurance. I'm very
Okay,
yes.
So that just means that you have to reach into your pocket and pay a vet to take her to the vet. Is it a she or a he, your dog?
It's a she.
And what was her name?
Name's Zoey.
Zoey. So did you take Zoey to the vet at the 6-month mark when she had the seizure?
No, I was told it wasn't necessary.
By whom?
I was told it wasn't. From the AKC 24-hour hotline.
They told you, nah, don't worry about it. Don't take your dog to a vet?
She only had a seizure for about 5-6 seconds. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
That's the first time
and
I ever
then what
experienced
happens? When she has a seizure the second time, when is it?
Okay, this didn't happen until about 2 months later.
Okay,
That's what I'm getting
so now
at.
it's the 8-month mark. And
That's
how
correct.
long is the seizure then?
Just once again, I say about maybe 10 seconds, more or less. Not too long.
And what do you do then?
Well, I was there comforting her. The only thing you can do is comfort her. Make
There's
sure she don't
nothing
bang
else to do
herself.
when a dog is having seizures?
When a dog is having seizures in front of you.
Oh, yeah, you comfort the dog then, but is there anything else to do after the seizure's over?
Well, after the seizure's over, they get their equilibrium back. Other than that,
do you take the dog to the vet then at the 8-month mark?
my intentions were to take her to the vet.
Your intentions? I don't care about your
Yes.
intentions. I'm asking you if you took her. Did you take her at the 8-month mark to the vet?
I didn't have the opportunity to take her. The reason why is because, once again, I did call, and I was told that there's basically, if I take her to the vet, they're going to tell me they cannot do nothing for her. That's what I was told because she only had like a few cents of seizure. And they say that's kind of common
All right.
on certain
what
dogs.
What ends up happening with the seizures? How many
told him like
seizures
this.
did the dog have before the dog passed away?
I say about maybe three
Okay.
or four.
All
And prior to her passing, I had a conversation with Francisco over the phone, and I said, "Hey, Francisco, I don't want my dog to die." And the feedback that he gives me, he tells me, "Oh, well, he knew the situation." He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. Get as much as you can from her. Get as much as you can from her regarding puppies." He didn't care about her if she dies or not. And I told him, I go, "Hey, slow your roll."
Can I ask
said,
you a question, Mr. Sigala? From the 6-month mark in June until January when your dog dies, are you telling me you never took the dog to the vet to find out why seizures were happening?
I was going to take my dog to the vet. I didn't have the opportunity that day because there were so many
That day,
dogs there.
I'm talking
Montebello.
about 6 months.
I didn't. I did not. I went to the Montebello one location, and there was too many people ahead of me. Yes, that's the closest.
You were too impatient to wait to get your dog diagnosed?
No. There was just too many people ahead of me. So
Yes,
basically,
that's
I said,
called you having to wait. That means you wait, right?
I was
And you didn't
told-
want to wait.
I comprehend that. By the time I got there, there was too many people ahead of me. That's what I'm getting at.
What's the downside to too many people ahead of you?
I showed up too late. I must have showed up too late. I'm very green at this. This is the first time me having a dog.
What do you mean green at this? If you go to the doctor and there's too many people ahead of you, that just means you have to wait longer, right?
Yes. But when I went, they were about to close. By the time I went, it was the opportunity I had was a certain time.
Okay,
a window opportunity to
Mr.
go.
Sigala, the rest of humanity knows how to take a dog to the vet, especially in 6 months. So you don't take the dog to the vet in 6 months, and you want the breeder who you bought the breeder or the seller who you bought the dog from, whether he bred the dog or not. You want the person who sold you the dog to refund you not just the $2,500 you say you paid, which he disputes that you paid $25, but not just the $2,500 you say you paid. You want him to pay you $10,000.
That's correct. Yes.
Right, because what? What did he do wrong?
He sells dogs left and right.
How did he breach the contract?
He lied to me. He's not the breeder of the.
Is that
puppy
the
I
only
bought.
way he lied to you? And is that the only reason you're suing for $10,000?
The reason, well,
Or do
of
you
course,
feel
my
like
dog-
he sold you a dog with a hereditary issue?
Yes, that's correct.
Where did you get that from? Because I know you didn't get it from no vet because you never went to the vet.
I have family that have a niece. She works in that field. Long story short.
No, I don't want you to make any more long stories short. If you have a family that has a niece, why didn't you just take the dog to the vet in those 6 months to find out what the cause of the seizures were?
I did my homework. Seizures like that, like I said, you could only weigh it out during that time they're having a seizure. She didn't have much. She didn't have much.
Let me tell you something. You didn't do any homework, okay? Because seizures like that could be as a result of 1,000 things. One could be hereditary, and it could be kidney failure. No, but it could be a lot of other things. It could be kidney failure, which is, the doctors can help treat. It could be a cancer. It could be a brain tumor. It could be a million things causing seizures. But we will never know because you couldn't take Zoey to the vet. And now in January, you were going to take her to the vet because you had your son arranged to buy pet insurance. So it's really about how much a vet would cost you. That's why you didn't take the dog to the vet. Not because AKC told you not to, not because Mr. Rosas told you not to, but because you didn't want to pay a vet. You wanted to have insurance, and you didn't have insurance, and you wanted to wait to have insurance. And apparently you didn't have insurance again on the dog until January, and then the dog dies before you can schedule an appointment. But it's not your fault. It's his fault, Mr. Rosas' fault.
That's correct. Once again, he sold me an unhealthy dog.
How would anyone know when you never took the dog to the vet?
And once again...
Typically, the way a person proves what you're saying is as soon as they get the dog, they take the dog within the next month to their own vet to make sure the dog is healthy. or within the next, depending on your state, however long they give you to do that. Some states give you 2 weeks, 14 days. Some states give you 7 days. You would take the dog to your own vet, make sure the dog is healthy. But certainly, if you have a dog having seizures for 6 months, you should take the dog.
No,
he did
they were
not
not-
kill your dog. Mr. Rosas did not kill your dog, Mr. Segala. You killed your dog by not taking your dog to the vet to get to the bottom of why the dog was having seizures. I am not ruling in your favor. I am ruling in favor of Mr. Rosas.
Wow, that's unbelievable. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous because he lied all along. He lied all along. Look at his nose is
Stop lying,
growing. He's
Jimmy.
Pinocchio.
You're
He's a big
50-year-old
liar.
man.
Okay.
So the plaintiff fails to get his $10,000 that he was seeking from the defendant. Mr. Segala, don't you understand? If you didn't take the dog to the vet, you're the one on the hook for here.
It's unfortunate. All the information's there, what I paid for. This guy's a compulsive liar, and that's where it's at.
Mr. Segala, I'm sorry, but you should have taken your dog to a vet. It's all on you. Mr. Rojas, what do you think about this guy? I mean, he's saying a lot of crazy stuff to you.
He's always been, and I don't know why I hung around him. I always knew he was a jerk, and how dirty he was with other people.
Do you have any idea of what could have been wrong with his dog? Did you have other issues with dogs from the same litter who had problems like that?
I've never had problems with seizures myself. And
all right. Well, look, you're off the hook. You're off the hook. You don't owe him $10,000, and I would imagine this will end your relationship with him. Don't settle him another dog, okay? Don't do that.
Okay, Doug, so really sad case, but an important point is raised, and that is that when you think you have legal rights, you have to assert them in a timely fashion. If you sit on your hands and wait, or if you don't take the proper action to mitigate damage, you go to court and you're going to lose. And in this case, when you're looking at 6 months, the plaintiff could have taken lots of action, including notifying the defendant and also clearly taking the dog to the vet for medical treatment.
When you're on a hill, stopped at a light, and the person behind you gets too close, when the light turns green and your car rolls a little and taps the person behind you, who's at fault?
Well, I would think that there's not a lot of damage done when you do that because you really only roll a little bit when you change gears.
Yeah, but you know, a tap is in the mind of the beholder.
Yes,
it's
it
like,
is.
Well, you know,
but the
that was
person
just a tap.
behind you is the one who decided how far to be from you.
Right, but does that person behind you, how are they supposed to know that you've got a manual transmission? I assume this person has a manual transmission in their car and they're on a hill. And I think, you know, on hills, when I met you, you were driving a car with a manual clutch, with a stick shift. And you probably remember, it's been a long time, I know.
It's been
but
a
you
very
remember,
long time.
Florida's so flat, you never had to be on a hill. But
Right.
where I grew up, there were hills.
Right.
And you had to, there's a parking brake or an emergency brake. You maybe had one hand on that.
Right.
And one foot on the clutch. And one hand on the steering
Yes, it
wheel.
was a full contact sport, I
Yeah,
remember.
and you're trying to feather the clutch just right so that's just about to engage, and when the light changes, you can go, or when it's time for you to go, you can go, and you're not going to roll back 3 or 4 feet and hit somebody.
I think there's a roll and there's a roll. If the roll is a few inches, that guy was too close to you. If the roll is several feet, then that may be on you.
Right.
But how many feet is too many feet?
I don't know. These are the kind of things that end up in small claims court because if there's real damage. Because
How big is the
there's no
hill?
video. One person in the car behind says this person was a maniac. They rolled back and slammed into my car and
So
damaged
the definitive
it.
answer
The person
is
in front
it
says he was a
depends.
16th of an inch away from my bumper. What do you expect?
Yeah, right.
So.